It's BrainWash with Dr. Tom and drum rolls with Tracy Thornton. The Renegades Pan in A minor.
Okay, awesome. It was over when I heard this. This is I got my first steel drum when I was 20 years old. When I was still in a band called Soul Society, I was still a rock drummer. Didn't know anything about it. Couldn't read music. Never played piano. Never played any kind of melodic instrument. Didn't know what to do. I think I learned how to play "Mary Had a Little Lamb" on the thing, and never thought I'd ever pursue it. But I started getting these CDs, to try to learn the music and see if I could hear it. And Pan in A minor was the first Trinidadian steel pan tune that I heard from Panorama, which is the biggest steel band competition in the world, where each band has 120 members.
Wow.
130 dB acoustically.
Wow.
And the songs, they take a 3-minute calypso, and what the arranger has to do with these bands is turn it into a 10-minute piece of calypso symphony orchestrated music. And you have to go through a certain amount of key changes, minors and majors. And my life was over when I heard that. It was the most incredible music. 120 members playing steel drums and some of the most complicated music that you could ever think of on a calypso ride. And when I heard that, I was like, that is what I have to do. That is, I have to go to Trinidad. I have to get on the level. I have to play in a band like that and be a part of it. And, 5 years later, I was doing it. 4 years later. But,
good deal.
That was a major life turning point. And Khalid saw it too. I would play djembe with him in concerts, and we would have the ECU steel band open up for us sometimes. And he would see me on the first row with my mouth just drooling. And, it was just, and he knew, and he encouraged me. But, that is, the path I'm on now is because of that. And that was a good 11, 12 years ago. Yeah.
Well, so what exactly was it that the steel pan was like so cool as opposed to...
It's hard to explain. For one, the energy. I was a heavy metal drummer. This music had that 125, 130 tempo. The energy, you're going to hear it. When you play, it's almost like happy heavy metal. It's the real heavy metal. It's like the positive, and it just kind of took you away from here. It's like, even when I went to Trinidad for the first time, it's like I've been here before. It's like I would literally feel like this was a home that I've never been to. It's hard to explain, and the steel drum instrument itself is... this happens to people I teach all the time. If they just want to get... As soon as you start playing it, you can't put it down. I guess it's the rhythm of it, the tonality of it. I learned I could play without having to learn how to go through a traditional learning how to read music. I still can't read music. It's all done by ear and learned by rote. And there's still something ethnic, indigenous about it. It's still an acoustic instrument, but it doesn't sound... There's just some magical quality. This is just one instrument. And it's made from a 55-gallon oil barrel. It's what we think of as a trash can. It's a perfect example of one man's trash is another man's treasure, and it's just totally the most amazing instrument on the planet. And then when you get 120 people together,
wow!
You at the drum circle playing djembe is fun, but when you're with 20, 25, 30 people, 50 people, it takes you to another level. Imagine playing a complicated piece of music, orchestrated music with 125, 120 people. With this instrument, you're playing as loud as you can. You can't even hear it because everyone else is around you. And then with all the different parts going on, it's just nuts, man. Everyone has to experience being inside a steel band in Trinidad.
It's BrainWash with Dr. Tom and drum rolls with Tracy Thornton. It's at Vat 19 Fontclaire, Pan by Storm.
Okay, this is another group out of Trinidad. And this was about a year after the Pan in A minor tune, I heard this song. And this is by a arranger named Professor Fillmore. Ken Professor Fillmore, we call him the Professor. And what he did with the music was instead of like instead of that kind of stuff that the Renegades do, which is really full, the tempo's a little slower, his music was like it was just like he was trying to kill people with his music. So imagine 125 members playing this kind of music, but the tempos are up, and the way he arranges it, he's and he was the arranger that I ended up playing with when I would go down. He's actually a good friend of mine now. When he writes music for Panorama, his whole vision is not to make the most beautiful music. It's a competition, and he thinks of it as a war. So when we're rehearsing, he's yelling at you, and he's just like, he's got this energy and yada, 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 yada. And he wants to kick people in the butt with his music. He don't want to make people feel good, which it's going to do. Yeah. But he's trying to make, when you play that music, you feel like you've just been blown away. And Pan by Storm, back in 1991, he lost by half of a point to the Renegades with another tune that they had done. The Renegades, Pen and A minor was 87. Pan by Storm was 91. But that was a turning point, and tempos after that year started with other arrangers get a little bit faster. So he kind of broke the mold in what they were doing. And when I heard that song, the reason I included that was, I was like, when I do finally get to Trinidad and get good enough to do that, that's the guy I have to play with. That's the music that I want to play. And of course, in '95, I was down there playing with him. And that was the guy out of all the bands. He was the guy I had to find and get to let me play.
It's Brainwash with Dr. Tom and Drum Rolls with Tracy Thornton, Slayer, Rain in Blood.
All right, this will explain me being bipolar. My best friend Jerry Crew, who used to be the drummer in Toxic Popsicle, and we were rival drummers. I was in Soul Society, Tipper Gore, and he was in Messiah, this death metal band. I was a heavy metal fan, but I was never really a fan of death metal. Really had never heard of it. I was probably, 18 or 19. I used to work at More Music. And he would come. He befriended me because I could get him discounts on sticks. But he turned me on to Slayer. And the reason I love this band just because Dave Lombardo, he took heavy metal drumming to the next level. They actually doubled tempos that they didn't think that were humanly possible. And that whole 12-song record, 10-song record's 28 minutes long? It's just that double bass. Blew me away. It was something I can't do. I couldn't do. I can't play that kind of music. Sometimes I can, but not on a consistent basis. But I even go see them. I went and saw them last year. And it's either one or the other. I love Slayer just because they were so over the top. They were so good at what they do, and they still are. But yeah, I heard that song, and of course, it just blew me away. And we used to just ride around. I had an MG that broke down all the time. I always would keep the top down, but I had this kick butt stereo in it. So we would just ride around in my MG with Slayer blazing all over the place. But yeah, I had to include that because, they broke a lot of ground, and, the drummer really was... He didn't inspire me because I never was in that kind of music, but yeah, he's one of my top guys. Yeah. Dave Lombardo. Totally.